Haunted paintings are a classic horror trope, beautiful, mysterious, and often deadly. From cursed portraits that drive people mad to supernatural artworks that unleash vengeful spirits, these films prove that sometimes the scariest thing in the room is hanging on the wall. Today we're exploring 8 of the best horror movies in which a painting is not just a backdrop, but the source of terror itself. These are all real, feature-length films, each with a unique take on the theme of the haunted or cursed painting. If you've ever wondered what would happen if a work of art could kill, possess, or trap your soul, this is the definitive guide to the most chilling haunted painting movies in horror history. 1. Velvet Buzzsaw, 2019. Velvet Buzzsaw is a satirical supernatural horror film set in the cutthroat world of contemporary art. The story begins when a series of paintings by a recently deceased, unknown artist named Vetril Dees is discovered. The art world is immediately obsessed, but the paintings are more than just valuable, they're cursed. As the paintings are sold and exhibited, people who profit from or exploit Dees's work begin to die in gruesome, supernatural ways. The deaths are directly linked to the paintings. One character is killed by animated graffiti, another is attacked by a sculpture, and others are tormented by visions and moving artwork. The film makes it clear that Dees's own tortured soul is somehow embedded in his art, and his rage is unleashed on anyone who tries to commodify it. Velvet Buzzsaw stands out for its creative kills and its critique of the art world's greed. The paintings themselves are never explained in detail, but their supernatural power is undeniable. The film's message is clear: some art is too dangerous to be owned, and the spirits of the past can reach out through the canvas to exact revenge. 2. Ghostbusters II, 1989. Ghostbusters II is a supernatural comedy, but it features one of the most memorable haunted paintings in film history: the portrait of Vigo the Carpathian. Vigo is a 16th century tyrant and sorcerer whose spirit is trapped in a massive, menacing painting at the Manhattan Museum of Art. The painting is more than just a vessel. It's a supernatural prison. Vigo's spirit can communicate, manipulate, and eventually possess people through the painting. He hypnotizes the museum's curator, János, and attempts to use him to kidnap a child so Vigo can be reborn in a new body. Throughout the film, the painting changes expression, glows, and even comes to life. In the climax, Vigo emerges from the canvas as a living entity, only to be defeated by the Ghostbusters proton packs and the positive energy of New York's citizens. Ghostbusters II uses the haunted painting as both a plot device and a visual centerpiece. Vigo's portrait is iconic, and the film's blend of humor and supernatural horror makes it a standout in the haunted painting subgenre. 3. The Witches, 1990. The Witches, based on Roald Dahl's novel, is a dark fantasy film with a truly haunting painting sequence. In the story, a young girl named Erica is cursed by the Grand High Witch and trapped inside a painting in her family's home. Over the years, her parents watch as Erica ages and moves to different parts of the painting until she eventually disappears. This sequence is brief but unforgettable. The painting becomes a prison, and Erica's silent, desperate presence is a chilling reminder of the witch's power. The film doesn't dwell on the mechanics of the curse, but the image of a child trapped forever in a painted farmhouse window is one of the most disturbing in children's horror. The Witches uses the haunted painting as a metaphor for lost innocence and the inescapable reach of evil. It's a powerful example of how a simple visual can become the most frightening part of a film. 4. The Picture of Dorian Gray, 1945. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a classic adaptation of Oscar Wilde's novel and perhaps the most famous haunted painting story in literature and film. Dorian Gray is a young man whose portrait is painted by his friend Basil Hallward. After making a wish that he could remain young forever while the painting ages instead, Dorian's wish comes true. As Dorian descends into a life of vice and cruelty, his portrait becomes increasingly grotesque, reflecting every sin and crime he commits. The painting is hidden away, and only Dorian knows the truth. The supernatural element is never fully explained, but the painting's transformation is both a visual and moral horror. The film's most famous scene is the reveal of the portrait, which has become a monstrous, decaying image of Dorian's soul. When Dorian finally tries to destroy the painting, he is killed, and the curse is broken. His body ages instantly, while the portrait returns to its original beauty. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a meditation on vanity, corruption, and the price of immortality. The painting is both a supernatural object and a symbol of conscience, making it one of the most enduring haunted artworks in cinema. 5. The House That Dripped Blood, 1971. The House That Dripped Blood is a British anthology horror film, and its segment, Sweets to the Sweet, features a haunted painting as a key plot device. In this story, a widower named John Reed moves into a new house with his young daughter Jane. He forbids her from having candles or dolls, but Jane becomes fascinated by a portrait of her mother, who was rumored to be a witch. As the story unfolds, Jane's fascination with the painting grows, and supernatural events begin to occur. The portrait seems to exert a strange influence over Jane, who starts practicing witchcraft herself. The painting is a conduit for her mother's spirit, and Jane ultimately uses her newfound powers to take revenge on her father. The segment uses the haunted painting as a symbol of inherited evil and the dangers of repressing the past. The portrait is both a link to Jane's mother and a source of supernatural power, driving the story's chilling conclusion. 6. The Haunted Palace, 1963. The Haunted Palace, directed by Roger Corman and starring Vincent Price, is a gothic horror film loosely based on H.P. Lovecraft's The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. The story centers on a New England town cursed by the warlock Joseph Curwen, whose portrait hangs in the ancestral palace. When Curwen's descendant, Charles Dexter Ward, inherits the palace, he becomes possessed by Curwen's spirit through the painting. The portrait is a supernatural anchor that allows Curwen to return from the dead and continue his evil experiments. Throughout the film, the painting changes expression and seems to watch the characters, exerting a malevolent influence over Ward and the townspeople. The only way to break the curse is to destroy the portrait, which finally ends Curwen's reign of terror. The Haunted Palace uses the haunted painting as a classic Gothic device, linking past sins to the present and making the portrait a literal gateway to supernatural evil. 7. The Mephisto Waltz, 1971. The Mephisto Waltz is an occult horror film about a journalist, Miles Clarkson, who becomes involved with a famous pianist, Duncan Ely. After Ely's death, Miles finds himself possessed by Ely's spirit, thanks to a satanic ritual involving a portrait. The painting in question is a portrait of Ely, which becomes a focal point for the supernatural events. As Miles's personality changes and he becomes more like Ely, the painting seems to reflect these changes, serving as a supernatural link between the two men. The film explores themes of identity, possession, and the price of ambition. The portrait is both a symbol and an occult tool used to transfer souls and manipulate reality. The Mephisto Waltz is a lesser-known but effective example of how haunted paintings can explore deep psychological and supernatural themes. 8. The Portrait of Jennie, 1948. The Portrait of Jennie is a supernatural romance with a haunting twist. The film follows struggling artist Eben Adams, who meets a mysterious girl named Jennie. As he paints her portrait, he realizes that Jennie is not from his time. She seems like a ghost, moving through different eras. The painting becomes a supernatural object, capturing Jennie's essence and serving as a bridge between the living and the dead. The film's climax involves a storm and a supernatural event that finally reveals Jennie's true nature. The Portrait of Jennie is more romantic than horrific, but its use of the haunted painting trope is both poignant and unsettling. The portrait is a symbol of love, loss, and the supernatural power of art to transcend time and death. These 8 films prove that haunted paintings are more than just spooky decorations. They're powerful symbols of guilt, ambition, revenge, and the supernatural. Whether it's a cursed portrait that ages in your place, a painting that imprisons souls, or a work of art that kills those who profit from it, these movies show that the line between art and evil is thinner than we think. What makes these films so effective is their ability to turn something beautiful and familiar into something terrifying. The next time you see a painting in a dark hallway, remember, in horror, you never know what might be looking back at you. Which haunted painting movie do you find the most chilling? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more horror content that explores the darkest corners of art and the supernatural.